Hello children, how are you all? I hope you are happy and healthy and studying also, and you are completing your work. As you all know, we have completed the previous chapters, and yesterday we have started models. As we have discussed about models, models are modal auxiliaries, or you can say these are all helping verbs which can placed with an ordinary verbs, and from these models we can express obligation, advice, suggestion, permission, and so on. So these are very important models, or you can say these are very important helping verbs which can change the mood of the sentence. I am going to give a very small recap or very short recap that we should revise all the things which we have discussed yesterday. We have discussed about the expression of ability, which is shown by can, could, and be able to. Ability, can, could, and be able to. Now here, can, you can see, is a present tense. In present tense, whenever we are supposed to use or supposed to show ability, then we are supposed to use can. And in past tense, we are using could. And when we are more, we want to show more possibility or more ability than can, then we are supposed to use be able to. That we have discussed yesterday. Today we are going to learn about from which models we can show obligation, advice. So let's start. Today we are going to discuss about which models can show obligation, advice, and suggestions. So let's start. I have written obligation, advice, and suggestion. Some models can show advice, obligation, and suggestion. So which are the model can show obligation, suggestion, and advice? These are should. First is should, must, and ought to. These three models can express obligation, advice, and suggestion. First of all, we are going to discuss about should. Should can express suggestions and advice. So how it can show the suggestion and advice? So that we are going to learn. So I am going to give an example about how it is giving you suggestion. So you should take this medicine twice a day. So here it is working like advice. This is working here as an advice because you should take this medicine twice a day. So this is showing an advice, and should is used over here to show or express an advice. And if we are going to talk about how it is used to for suggestions. So suggestion, for suggestion I am going to write second example, that is you should eat fresh vegetables and fruits. So this is giving you suggestion that if you eat fresh vegetable and fruits, it will make you healthy. So this is suggestions. And here the advice, you should take this medicine twice a day. So this is considered over here as an advice. And because it is giving you suggestion to be fit, healthy and be fit, so that is why you should eat fresh vegetables and fruits. So this is suggestion. You should draw the line. You should draw the parting line after completing your one answer that the teacher used to give you suggestion. Or if the teacher tells you that you should use your book while the teacher is reading the chapter, it is an advice. So this way you can understand, whenever should is used, it shows suggestion and advice both. But the sentence will be changed, or when we are giving you advice for your betterment, that is, or we are very particular about anything, then we should use as an advice. And when we are in generally we talk, that time we should say that is used as a suggestions. Now we are moving ahead in the must. So why it is used, when and why we are going to use must. Must is a very strong obligation. You must do this. You must send your copies on my email. So that we used to write it. So this is very strict obligation, or you can say you have to do this. So that time we are supposed to use must. So let's learn about how to use this must as a model. So let's start. Then must is used or suggest strong obligation. First of all, we just suggest strong obligation. That you have always keep in your mind. It is showing or suggesting a very strong obligation. Example we can give: you must help your friends in their need. So if we are going to talk about the strong, this must is suggesting you a very strong obligation. That time I have written one example: you must help your friends in needs, those who are in needs. So you must help. So it is showing the strong obligation or suggestion to help your friends in need. Now the second point that we are going to discuss about must, that is suggest or express very strong, you can say, suggestion or the desire of the speaker. Now suggest compulsion. It is suggest compulsion. Compulsion and the desire of the speaker. So both things it can suggest or give. That is suggest compulsion. You must do. You have to do. That type of the, you can say, the compulsion is always, whenever we have to show the compulsion about anything, that time we have to use this must. Now, for example, you must submit your answer sheet. So, this is compulsion, because without this you cannot get marks. That is why it is compulsion. So that is why here I have used you must submit your answer sheets. So it is compulsion. Without this we cannot get marks. So this time we have to use this must. So first is it's showing you can say the very strong obligation, and second it is showing the suggest compulsion about anything. So when we have to show our compulsion or strong obligation, we are going to use this must model. Now the third thing, it is also inside this must that we have to learn about must. Suggest necessity. Suggest necessity. So whenever there is a necessity of anything, that time you can use must. For example, the government must ensure about medication of COVID-19. So here we are showing the suggestions about necessity. So it is our necessity. That is why that time we are supposed to use must. Because this time, because this is the pandemic time, that time the government must ensure about the medication of COVID-19 or about the vaccination of this COVID-19. So that time it is our necessity. That is why we have to use must over here. So what we have learned in the must, first is the strong obligation. When we are supposed to show strong obligation, we just use must over there. When we have to show the compulsion about anything, then we have to use must. And then, and the third point which we have discussed, that is whenever we are supposed to suggest necessity, so that time we have to use must. So must is a very important model, because from this we can show compulsion, suggestions and necessity, suggestion of necessity. So now we are going to discuss about ought to. So let's start. Ought to. Ought to conveys a sense of moral duty. So ought to, if we are going to see, you are learning in the civics, there is a fundamental duties. So in fundamental duties, we have studied about you ought to respect national flag, national symbols. So there is always written ought to. So ought to means it shows your social duty or whatever the moral duty you are having. That is, that time we are supposed to use ought to. It shows to follow your moral duty. It conveys the message about the moral duty. Ought to is always supposed to be used over there. When we have to show, when we have to give any suggestion about the moral duty, then we are supposed to write ought to. So it always conveys the sense of moral duty. Now I am going to give you ought to is used, conveys a sense of, conveys a sense of moral duty. So it is not showing any compulsion, but it is conveys a sense of moral duty. That we have to always remember. You ought to follow the rules of Indian government. So it is suggests your moral duty. This is your moral responsibility that you have to follow the rules which is made by Indian government. Or if it is written in the fundamental right, so we have to. It is our moral responsibility to save our national symbols and national flag. We should respect. That is our moral duty. So ought to is always conveys a sense of moral duty. So always remember, as you all studying civics, that in the fundamental right you could just go through this, because there are 10 fundamental rights are written over there, and you just read it, and each and every line you should know that what are our moral responsibility about our nation. So ought to is always conveys a sense of moral duty. So whenever we have to convey the sense of moral duty to others, we have to write this. We can use this ought to. So today we have learned about the models which can show obligation, suggestions and advice. And in first one we have studied about should. Should is always shows the suggestions or obligations and advice also. So that we have understood, that is advice. The must is showing the compulsion about anything or strong obligation, and here ought to is conveying a sense of moral duty. So let's start solving the exercises which are based on these three models. Now exercise number B in your Mastering Grammar book, fill in the blanks with should, ought to or must according to the suggestions in the brackets. So you just take out your Mastering Grammar book, page number 89, and this is exercise number B. Now we are going to do, he dash look after his parents. So now here in the bracket it is given moral duty. So which model can convey moral duty? It is ought to. So we are going to write over here in exercise number B, and this is one number. He ought to. He ought to, because it's showing our moral duty. He ought to look after his parents. Now second, you dash read newspapers daily to improve your vocabulary. Now this is suggestions. So what we are going to use over here to give suggestion? Should. Yes. Now in second we are going to use should, because it's giving us suggestion. You should read newspapers daily to improve your vocabulary. Now we are moving to number 3. You dash submit the form before the last week of May. Here in bracket it is given compulsion. So for compulsion, what we are supposed to use? We are supposed to use must. So in third, we are going to use must. So You must submit the form before the last week of May. Now we are moving to number 4. Number 4, the government dash make efforts towards bridging the economic divide. So this is necessity. In the bracket it is given necessity. So necessity, what we are going to use? This is must. For this, must. Now 5th, we dash pay taxes on time. It is our moral duty as citizens of the country. Now, in the bracket it is given moral duty, and as you have seen in this sentence also, it is written, it is our moral duty as citizen of the country. So, we ought to. We ought to. We are going to write, we ought to. We ought to pay taxes on time. It is our moral duty as citizen of the country. Now we are moving to number 6. You dash join yoga classes to improve your ability to concentrate. So it is, in the bracket it is written suggestions. So we should use over here should. So 6 is should. You should join yoga classes to improve your ability to concentrate. Now 7th, you dash to something for the underprivileged. So this is moral duty. So this time we are going to use over here ought to. Now in number 8, since the train is yet to come, we dash take a walk around the sea. Since the train is yet to come, we dash take a walk around the area. And in the bracket it is written over here suggestions. So for suggestion we are going to use should. Should. So since the train is yet to come, we should take a walk around the area. Now in 9th, you dash finish your work by today. This is compulsion. So in compulsion, we are supposed to use must. When we have to express compulsion, then we are going to use must. You must finish your work by today. Now 10th, having a playground in every locality is a dash necessity. Now here we have to show necessity, that is why we are going to use over here must. 10th is must. So you just take a screenshot and complete this exercise. Now we are moving to next model, which can show permission. So you just write down all the exercise, then I am going to erase it. Now our next model is may, can and could. These are the models can show permission. Permission from which model we can show? So that is can, may and could. So from these three models we can show permission. We can give permission. We can take a permission from these three models. How they are going to use? How we can use it? that we are going to learn. Now, first we are going to discuss about may. May is giving or asking permission in a very polite and formal way that you always keep in your mind. Whenever you are using may, that is showing your formal way to asking permission or giving permission. So whenever you are asking to your teacher, may I drink water, so you cannot say in the classroom that can I drink water, because this is very informal way to ask any authority. So that you just always remember, may is you are always suggested that you have to use whenever you are asked permission or give permission in a formal way. In the school, in the office, whenever you are entering in the principal office, you have to ask, may I come in? May I take this, ma'am? So these type of the things you have to always remember. May is always used in a formal way whenever you ask permission or you are giving permission in a very formal and polite way. So it suggested that you have to ask permission or give permission in a very formal and polite way. So that we are going to write over here. Suggest permission which is formal in nature and polite. So two things always consider in may. So may, whenever you are using, you have to show your politeness, and from this models you can show, you can ask the permission with the politeness and in a formal way. So if we are going to ask, may I come in? So this is a very formal way to ask permission to get in. May I call her? So this is also a very polite way or formal way to ask permission to anyone which is senior to you and which you have to show you ought to show the respect. That time we are supposed to use whenever we are writing may, that is showing our formal way of asking permission. So that you always keep in your mind. Now we are moving to can. Can is, you can say, ask permission is more lighter or more informal way than the may. So can, for with the use of can, you can ask permission but in a very informal way. That time we can use can. I can do this. Can I take this? So these are the things we can ask permission from this also, but in a very informal way. As our daily routine talking, we are converse with our friends, colleagues, that time we can use can I take this? Can I use this? Okay, so this time we are supposed to use can. Can suggest permission which is less formal than may. And you can say can is used. Can is informal way to ask permission. So can I borrow this lamp? So you just asking permission for anyone in a very informal way. That we always keep in our mind. Can is also give permission, but in a very informal way. We can ask permission. Now we are moving to could. Could, as you all know, this is the past form of can, and with the help of could, we can also ask or give permission. So this is suggest, permission, in past. He said, for example, he said, could, he said that I could leave the meeting. So here you can see it is a permission in an informal way, but in the past tense. So that we always consider this. May is suggest permission, which is formal in nature and polite, and can is used. It is less formal than may, and could is the past form of the can. That is why it is also less formal than may. So I think today we have completed strong obligation, permission, advice. These are the things we have completed today. We have learned about must, should, ought to, and here that is permission, may, can, and could. For these model we can ask permission, and for those model we can show our strong obligation, permission, and advice. So that's all for today. We will continue this chapter tomorrow also, because exercises are left and more models which we are going to discuss tomorrow. So till then, bye bye and take care.